Hi guys, That's Song Review Guy here, and yes, this is it, my final list of many, my top 10 best hit songs of 2016. If you saw my worst hits of 2016 video, you'll know that last year was a particularly terrible year for commercial hits. Whilst this never bodes well for a particular year when it comes to remembering the musical milestones, if you don't count the numerous deaths that dealt multiple blows to the musical world last year, it has the twofold of making choices for the worst of the list particularly difficult. I had about 25 to 30 songs that I could have chosen from for last year. On the other hand, it made choosing the best songs of the year incredibly easy to pick, since there weren't many to choose from in the first place. But then you're faced with a dichotomy of distinguishing whether a song is actually good, or whether because 2016 was a pretty brutal year, the average songs are disguised to look good, or you're just desperate to find something to fill the blanks, so you'll just end up picking any old crap. But after some consideration, I eventually managed to find 10 songs that I personally believe are worthy of being recognised as the best hit songs of last year. But first, as always, the honourable mentions, songs that I liked but just failed to reach the mark. I'm going to be honest with you lot, when I first heard this song in full, I immediately hated this track, and if you'd have caught me on that particular day, I would have said without hesitation that this was one of the worst Justin Timberlake songs that had ever charted. Considering what JT had done in the past, this seemed like a massive step down in terms of quality. But during a time where the charts were simply depressing, with One Dance, Cheap Thrills and a series of other bad to boring songs hanging around forever like a bad smell, this was a serious injection of fun, playfulness and all-round enjoyment that the charts really needed, and in turn, my opinion on this song completely changed. So, you could say that the terrible state of the charts did some good in the end, huh? The last Coldplay album was one that divided opinions across the board. Personally, I found a lot to enjoy about A Head Full of Dreams, and this track was one of the reasons. The upbeat piano riffs, the milk bottle-like percussion inclusion, and Beyoncé's vocals layered, creating a nice little effect on the opening of the track. This song really does grow on you over time, and I found myself enjoying it even more with every listen. Firstly, I would have liked it even more if Beyoncé had more of a presence on this song instead of effectively settling as a backing vocalist. But on the whole, it's a good song. And continuing the trend of songs that grew on me over time, here's another one. I never caught Blurryface in 2015, and to be honest, I haven't gone out of my way to scope that album out, and after Summer 21 Pilots released this year, I'm not sure I'm going to be diving headfirst into that album anytime soon. What I will say, however, that this track here, which has a strong sense of nostalgia and longing, immediately gripped me, and alongside the simple instrumentation and vocals from lead singer Tyler Joseph, which are strained yet gripping, it was a winning combination and one worthy of its salt. And here's a song from a group that I never would have thought had a chance for consideration for my best of year list. Little Mix were another group that piqued my interest early before petering out quickly, and considering this is a song that is essentially a stab at one of the members' ex-boyfriends, I'd be lying if I said that this wasn't a terrifically constructed pop tune. Stabbing piano, snappy percussion and forceful synths culminate into a decent production piece, and vocally, the ladies are on point, particularly Perry on her solo delivery of the chorus. It's a real crowd pleaser of a song, and one that I personally really enjoy. 2016 didn't see the return of many artists. Well, none that I cared for in particular, but one that came back in full force with what actually turned out to be a pretty solid comeback was Craig David. Alongside featured artist Big Narstie, When the Bassline Drops turned out to be one of the very few dance music tracks that I found myself embracing. It's not one that feels the need to deafen the listener, nor is it an onslaught of the senses that'll leave you reaching for the off switch whenever it comes on. It's a smooth, upbeat track that has a good groove going for it, and it's one of the very few dance songs that will actually get me out of my seat and not in a begrudging fashion. I'm going to be honest here. This was the toughest song to leave off my top 10. For all the club bangers that are derivative and are stuffed full of glorification and zero imagination, this song is perhaps the perfect antithesis for those songs. It's a dark, moody, downtrodden, melancholic song where our leads, Tinashe and Chance the Rapper, attempt to escape their problems, whether they be loneliness or loss of friends through drug abuse, but they both feel unfulfilled going out to the club and that they're wasting their time, only to freely admit that they'll end up doing the same thing when Friday night rolls around again. It's a truly sad song in that respect, and one that manages to hit the gut in the right place. And again, proving that I can like dance music, we have this charming little number. I will admit that the lyrics are nothing that special. Essentially, the leads telling their love interest that they're not interested in the other's riches and all they need is the person in question. It's just too goddamn joyful and upbeat to really care. Made all the more easy to do so through the use of real instruments, which seems to be a rarity nowadays. The bouncy electric guitar riff in the verses is sunny and matches the tone of the song nicely. But let's be honest here, it's the horn section in the musical break that we all love so goddamn much that we become hooked on this song in the first place. It's the case with me, and I make no apologies for such. Now on to the main event. These are my picks for the 10 best hit songs of 2016. I went through a phase of seeing a myriad of movies a few years ago, and it was something that I was hoping to keep up. But unfortunately, I went from seeing about 70 to 80 movies a year to 4 this year, and none of them any good, with one of them being Batman vs Superman. Yeah, I hate myself that much for putting myself through that. One of them was the insufferable Suicide Squad, which was an ungodly piece of shit. Seriously, nothing good came from that movie, nor did anything that was attached to that movie. Even the soundtrack sucked. Well, okay, that's not technically true. It may have been Heathens that was dropped as the theme to represent Suicide Squad, but in comparison, this track wins hands down every time. And I know what you're thinking, this is a song that contains a slew of artists who are known for releasing some pretty dreadful material over the last few years. It's overloaded with artists, writers, the instrumentation and production is off kilter as all hell with that simple bass, guitar and electric guitar riff, the equally simple percussion, the almost spooky keyboards coupled with the wispy whistling inclusion and plucked strings later on. How can this be anything but an unmitigated train wreck of a song? Well, put it simply, I put forward it's because of said off-kilter packaging that it works in the song's favour tremendously. Also, by sidelining ex-ambassadors and Imagine Dragons to do the most minimal work on this track was a stroke of genius. I could only imagine how bad this track would have turned out if they had taken complete control of the song. It would kinda help if I could tell the two apart on this song, which I can't, but in hindsight, I won't complain. As for everyone else, I don't have much in the way of complaints. All contribute solid verses, their vocal deliveries are equally as good, and they all manage to match the tone of the song with their bars. Both Logic and Dolla spit off a verse about loyalty and standing side by side with your brothers in arms. Wiz Khalifa backs that up on his verse, but for me, the standout star is without a doubt Lil Wayne, who, in my opinion at least, had a pretty damn good 2016 as a featured artist. The guy just drops lyrical restraint and produces imagery that's both visual and striking. Sure, read out of context and on a different track it may look ridiculous, but I honestly think it fits with the song's aura perfectly. A big surprise for me and one that's highly welcome. For all of those who watched my worst hit songs of the year list, one of my dishonourable mentions was an Ariana Grande song, and I stand by that decision. I make no apologies putting side to side on that list because it fucking deserved it, and it makes me all the more disappointed because her lead single off of that album was a really great track as well. So much so that I noted on my 50 best songs of 2016 list that Kiss It Better by Rihanna was the sexiest song that I had heard all that year, and that still remains a fact. It's a shame that track never gained any traction on that charts, but instead we got this, and trust me when I say that I'm not complaining because this just oozes sex appeal from every single pore. This was one of the very few instances where Ariana's evolution from demure and timid to full-on confident and sexy transitioned terrifically because she doesn't put a single foot wrong here. I'm going to say right here, this is 1,000 times sexier and 1,000,000 times more attractive than anything that appeared on My Everything. The guitar is sultry, smooth and smoky, the percussion and buzzing synth drop in the chorus kicks the song into another mode and adds to the demure nature of the song, and I just love that guitar breakdown in the musical interlude. The production is fantastic, but Ariana Grande's vocal delivery completely steals the show, and I'm frustrated how the album itself couldn't be more like this song. Ariana manages to portray both confidence and power flawlessly, and when she repeats the chorus a final time in the conclusion, my God, is it a thing of beauty. Although the questions are raised about whether I buy Ariana as a dangerous woman, the answer is a definitive no. But the lyrics don't try and push that in any direction. Instead, it's just about her emotions and feelings towards this guy, and as a result, it makes her want to veer into territory that, while she may not be used to, she's up for the ride. And if things were to have continued this way, I would have been more than happy to have joined her. But we'll just have to wait and see what the future holds for her. be a best of the year list without at least one controversial pick, would it? So get ready to spew all your bile and hatred out onto your computer screen, but I'm going to try and do my best to justify this song's place on this list. I can already imagine that this song's inclusion has thrown the cat amongst the pigeons. It's very evident that this song has been battered back and forth and has been mentioned on at least one or two Dishonourable Mentions lists by a few people, as well as being a certain music critic's #1 pick for worst song of the year. And you all know who I'm talking about on that one. Maybe I'm the last surviving member of the 7 Years fan club who will still stand by this song in the face of all those who dissent. So allow me to address the criticisms. I don't personally find this song to be bragging in any way, shape or form. There's a mountain of brag songs out there that aren't subtle in any way, shape or form and have no charm or likability to them at all. Something that I feel 7 Years has in abundance. The inclusion of the shouting of the name Lukas over a tannoy around the middle. So what? It's not really anything to get worked up at all, is it? Yeah, at least not for me. And some people have problems with the lyrics, but I find them to be incredibly endearing. Growing up, sharing a dream with friends about making something of themselves and getting to the stage of achieving your ambitions has an element of charm that I buy its sincerity. And the little dedication to 4chan's deceased father, I won't lie, I find it touching. Nothing wrong with that at all. And the production and instrumentation, again, I think it's really good. It's clean, it conjures up a nostalgic aura that I rather like, and I feel that it comes together nicely and results in a great song and one of the best ones of 2016. Want to hear the full review of the song? I'll include a link in the description box. Go nuts. Tell me how wrong I am. It's one thing to come back from a break from the music world, and it's another thing coming back after almost torching your own career through a series of bad decisions away from the scene. Whether James Arthur has learned from his past transgressions, only time will tell. But what I do know is that he came back with one of the sweetest, sentimental, beautifully delivered love songs of 2016, and I couldn't help myself but put it on the list. I'm going to be honest here. After listening to James Arthur's return album, Back from the Edge, it struck me as an album full of missed potential. Plagued largely by forgettable instrumentation, songs where the lyrical content was bordering on cheesy and cringeworthy, and generally just falling behind on the pop album spectrum. Considering all the tracks on that album, it's no surprise that this song was released to herald James's return, because this song is out and out gorgeous. I know that many people out there have vehemently despised the white guy with acoustic guitar genre, and you know what? I'll concede that there are a myriad of tracks of that nature that do indeed suck. But this one doesn't. One thing that will win me over is if I buy the track's sincerity, and that'll work if the tone of the song strikes the balance both lyrically and musically, and Arthur does that easily. The sweetly picked acoustic guitar strings backed by the lush string arrangement and brief moments of echoing kick drum tie in wonderfully with each other, and the lyrics, which portray meeting someone who you wish to spend the rest of your life with, are delivered superbly, with Arthur's restrained vocals only adding more positives to the track. Yeah, it's another track about meeting someone you barely know, and somehow this leads to the protagonist believing that they're the person that they're destined to be with for life. But again, it comes down largely to the believability factor, and this song has exactly that. If you want to hear my full views of the song, again, link in the description box, have at it.